Okay, folks, we are live. Location 2, we're at the Ferguson Police Department right now. The second hotbed of the Ferguson protests in 2014 when Mike Brown was shot. September and October, we spent a lot of time in West Florissant where we just were. And then we moved the protests moved in front of the Ferguson Police Department, and we're here for months, night after night. We have hours of the live broadcast from then. A lot happened here. And so protesters wanted to come back to ground zero here in St. Louis, where the momentum and the movement against police brutality and the shooting of black lives in the cities began across the country. So we're back here in Ferguson. Protesters making a point that we have not forgot about Ferguson. They have not forgotten about Mike Brown. It's still just as important as Anthony Lamar Smith, Kajimi Powell, and all the others who have lost their life here in St. Louis and around the country at the hands of police. So I want to thank you guys for joining me back here. You can see the new updated Ferguson Police Department right here. This is technically South Florissant Road right here. There's a lot of Florissant roads around here. It gets a little confusing, but this is where downtown, the main downtown buildings and government buildings of Ferguson are. A lot of road blockings like you see right here outside the Andy Worm parking lot back in 2014, early 2015. And I want to again thank the guys at TYT Politics and Jordan for collaborating with us. While he's out of town, we're hosting our stream also on TYT Politics Facebook page. So for the new audience out there that might not know what's going on here in St. Louis, there was a verdict, a not guilty verdict of Officer Jason Stockley about 3 weeks ago in one of the most clear-cut cases of police murder that has ever been seen, with the amount of audio and video and lack of DNA evidence at the scene. Basically what happened is police, Jason Stockley and other police, saw what they had thought was a heroin deal. And so they rushed their cars on Anthony Lamar Smith, who was behind the wheel. And if you're not a black male in St. Louis, you might not understand that when you see police roll up on you, no matter what you're doing. Hold on. Protesters trying to get people to turn around. She was driving forward.
Do what you gotta do. Do what you gotta do. You trying to hit me. You trying to hit me, motherfucker.
Back up. All you gotta do is back up.
You got a problem.
You see, there's nothing preventing her from backing up and turning around.
It ain't no joke. It ain't no joke. Stand up, fight back. Stand up, fight back. Stand up, fight back. You're dead, motherfucker. Fight back. Stand up, fight back. What do we do? Stand up, fight back. Stand up, fight back.
So that lady was intent on wanting to drive forward, not backing up. Nobody was preventing her from backing up. She almost ran over this gentleman as she got off the brake a couple times. Okay, so as I was saying to some of the new audience not familiar about St. Louis, so Jason Stockley pulled over Anthony Lamar Smith. They got in front of his car, and no matter whether he was guilty of anything or not, being a black man in St. Louis with the record of police, he reasonably tried to flee for his life. You hear in audio from the cam of the car, Stockley saying, "I'm going to kill this motherfucker, just watch." He had an illegal AK-47 in his car, which he brought out. The other officer on the scene, you see in the video, many videos of the St. Louis Post-Dispatch, a lot of others covered it very well. You see in the video that the partner holstered his weapon, suggesting that Anthony Lamar Smith was not a threat. Stockley went up and fired 5 or 6 shots at him anyway, killing him. And then Stockley goes back to his car a couple times, goes into a bag, and that's where most people believe the gun was planted. There was no fingerprints, no DNA evidence tying that gun to Anthony Lamar Smith, and it wasn't fired at the scene. So people, and the judge basically in his decision stated that the fact that Anthony Lamar Smith was a heroin dealer means that he had to have had a gun. And so the judge is making wild accusations based on circumstantial evidence to determine that he deserved to die at the hands of an officer who said he was going to fucking kill him, which is documented. And I don't think that was admissible in court. A lot of things were not admissible in court. It was a really convoluted case, just like they all are here in St. Louis. And that's what got people back out in the streets here in St. Louis, remotivating the now nationwide movement that started right here in Ferguson. So again, Ferguson Police Department, we were out here, and I was out here filming for months, from late October until early in 2015. A lot of times they would have what's called county brown, since this is one of the 90 plus municipalities in the St. Louis County. They all have their little tiny munis like Ferguson for these little tiny cities that they have, which is literally like you could walk and you'd be in St. Louis. You could walk, you'd be in Jennings or another one of these municipalities. And so a lot of times they were policed by county. They would come in. Counties notorious for being brutal. They were the ones who brutalized people at the Galleria Mall about a week or two ago. Protesters now marching down South Florissant Road.
Now we got to know. We shut shit down. We shut shit down. We shut shit down. We shut shit down. Attack your neighbor and say, neighbor, you better make a difference. That means open your mouth. Come on, say it to your neighbor. It's fair. Open your mouth. Open your mouth. Say, neighbor. Open your mouth. Open your mouth. Who shut it down? We shut it down. 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 When black lives are under attack, what do we do? Stand up like that. What do we do? Stand up like that. What do we do? Stand up like that. When black lives are under attack, what do we do? Stand up like that. What do we do? Stand up like that. What do we do? Stand up like that. When black lives are under attack, what do we do? Stand up like that. What do we do? Stand up like that. What do we do? Stand up like that. All streets. 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 In fact, if we stop it, they should have got the picture. They could have said it. Yes, in the fucking wicked stores. Our streets. 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 Put your fist in there. I'm gonna say fist up, you say fight back. And make sure you're slowing at a pace. We want to make sure we know out here. This is home ball for us. Like, this is a family reunion for us out here. Stand up! Fight back! Stand up! Fight back! Fight back! Fight back! I want you to say that like you mean it. You say that with everything in your body. Stand up! Fight back! Stand up! Fight back! Stand up! Fight back! Alright, y'all. Alright, y'all. Tighten up, tighten up, tighten up.
If people want to
All right, again, thanks for new viewers for joining us here in Ferguson, Missouri. Small municipality just north of St. Louis City proper. If you guys aren't familiar with St. Louis, the city is lined, a ring around it is a separate entity county. They're not the same. It's kind of like D.C. It's a completely separate entity from the county itself. So it's very confusing with the types of municipalities you see involved in these different protests. Here tonight, you're going to see Ferguson, possibly county. Sometimes they do get neighboring like Jennings and other tiny municipalities around here involved. And again, that's what was the big thing back in Ferguson during 2014. It wasn't just what Mike Brown brought to light about police brutality and sparking that movement, but it had been building here in St. Louis and in the county for years and decades, where citizens are harassed by the police. They get parking tickets going through one municipality. You drive a mile down, you get another ticket in the next municipality, and then you can get three in one night for a busted headlight just driving through the north or south side. And then what happens is people can't afford to pay that because they're poverty taxes, basically. Then they get warrants put out on them. Then they get picked up on a warrant. They get jailed until they can pay. So you have people sitting in jail for weeks upon end, sometimes months, just for a parking violation. That has not changed. That was highlighted during Ferguson. Mainstream media left. The pressure went off. Some subtle cosmetic changes have happened here in the municipalities and in St. Louis, but nothing has changed. People are still sitting in jail for weeks for not being able to pay a traffic violation. Even just the other night when we were kettled, there's a gentleman in our holding cell, temporary holding cell, where I believe people are only supposed to be for 24 to 48 hours. He had been beaten up by the cops and thrown in there for like 3 or 4 days. And I don't care what he did, that was illegal behavior in jail. So not only are people getting rounded up for parking tickets, how they're then treated in the horrible jail system here. It's basically punishing the poor. And we highlighted that in 2014, and not much has changed. We still hear stories, we still talk to people and hear it. So again, we were in front of the PD Police Department in Ferguson, a hotbed where we protested a lot, and I live streamed a lot back in 2014. People appear to be having some conversations outside of Monty's Cigar Lounge.
Who shut shit down? Who shut it down?
When black lives are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back! When black lives are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back! That's what we doing, so y'all got to do the same tonight. Ain't no peaceful night. I don't get no damn peace. What's up? I ain't had peace in 4 years. We out there, bro. I'm a black man. We shut you down. Y'all sitting down here comfortable watching goddamn shit. Y'all getting goddamn shit. Y'all crazy as hell out here. You crazy as hell.
Support shit with this motherfucking
You out here supporting this shit. Fuck them. What about supporting these brothers and sisters that
right,
ride?
what about these kids
about
out
the
there dying? Y'all out here sitting up like shit on the system. Y'all skin just like that. Ain't go. Don't give a fuck about how much money they got. Y'all see y'all
They have detached themselves.
The roof.
That's right. The roof is on fire. You never detach yourself from being black because you born black.
Y'all better find out. It's getting burned down tonight.
You have an issue.
I know, that's the problem. Because we leave them alone. These are our people.
Get away with this shit.
What the fuck you mean leave them alone? You can't leave them alone. Fuck that.
They don't give a fuck, so why should we?
He's been out here fucking with all pumping on like
Why we out here pushing? Damn.
I just fight the dogs on the motherfucking hands. Come on, right? I heard about that.
First motherfucker, wait, mother, help your black man. Y'all know. See y'all. I'm on millions of cameras. Instead of everybody stupid, everybody come over like a man. So you can fuck out that cigar, you see that, and then understand what's going on. Besides, you sit up and get all your money from these white folks. Because you black, that's what you need to do. Right. So you should be out there with us. So that's what you need to learn how to do. That cigar don't make you no better than me, and no motherfucker out here. You still a nigga when you get through.
Why not? You see how real black I am.
I ain't worried about you.
I ain't worried about you either. What the fuck?
Oh, now black dudes finna fight. Fight.
That don't make you happy. Fight.
Come on, you guys, let's go. Come on, Michael, let's go. Let's go. Let's
My man's going up.
Dilworth is who RebZ gave it to.
Oh yeah. We just saw him in court a couple weeks ago.
Did he act like he didn't know you?
He pretended like he didn't know us. He pretended like he didn't do a complete civil rights violation by preventing me to film safely from a distance, and then by detaining me, taking my camera and my driver's camera and trying to shut them off. He said, in his words, on my video on YouTube, if I want you to film me, I'll let you know. And then grab my phone out of my hands.
That's Ferguson justice.
Yep.
And Dilworth got promoted, right?
He got promoted after. He even got put on like the civilian PR board or whatever.
Let's go.
And he's the worst with communicating with the public, so that makes no sense whatsoever.
So not everything in Ferguson is perfect, but we've made some changes.
Some changes, but people are still being held in jail for weeks on end for traffic violations.
Really?
Oh yeah, I've talked to a few people.
Come out the side street, please.
Still happening, man. Still happening.
Still happening.
Thank you.
And we're gonna keep fighting. So RebZ's is streaming too. RebZ.tv, is that right?
Yep, RebZ.tv. Yep.
And on Facebook, what's your Facebook handle?
You can find it under RebZ.tv or Revolutionary_Z.
Okay.
Oh, that's you.
Okay. So this is the gentleman that was in Charlottesville and filmed that car running.
Let's tighten up, y'all. Let's tighten up. Tighten up the film.
Yeah.
Jersey that you're from, Reb?
No, I'm from Chicago originally, but I'm like pretty much a nomad now by force.
Yeah.
Trolls tried to find where I work, so I'm like, well, guess I'm taking this on the road full time.
Who do you work for?
And then they'll yell, get a job at the same time.
Get a job. Who do you work for?
Keep it straight. Get a job and then call to try to get me fired. Pick one. Pick one, man. So you know what? Now I got a full-time job doing this, so thank you, trolls.
All right.
Just talking to another citizen journalist live streamer there. He was referencing my footage in Charlottesville, which you have probably seen without even realizing it was me, of the terrorist attack that killed Heather Heyer. I was just coming around the corner. I had been live for like 15 minutes on Facebook, and that happened. And that's the power of live streaming, folks, is that I was able to get that footage in the hands of all the media worldwide within like 15 minutes. I just gave them blanket, just use it, just give me credit, just use it. And we got that out there in minutes to get the narrative in place before the trolls and the opposition had a chance to try to shift the true narrative. So the testament to collaboration of independent journalists that day and live streaming that got the job done. And just so you know, we are also live, not on just my 4 channels and the website, RebZ.tv, but also on being hosted on TYT Politics website tonight, holding the torch for Jordan while he's out of town. He definitely made a name for himself with the protesters and with the independent media here. He has commitment, so he'll be out of town, so I'm holding the torch, getting the stream on the page for them in collaboration.
We shut it down. How you gonna shut it down? We shut it down. You can't eat comfortably. We shut it down. You can't eat comfortably.
Ferguson Brewing Company.
We shut it down.
There's a few places where a lot of the really racist white people used to hang out during the Ferguson protest. And the bar, Marley's that we're coming up on here is one of them. Notorious also for a lot of the cops go in there. A lot of confrontations during Ferguson in front of Marley's that you see in front of us here. People now holding the intersection in front of Marley's on South Florissant Road here.
So right now we need to get on one united front, right?
Right.
We hearing a lot of people yelling out a lot of things that they want personally, right? So we need to get on this united front. We are in Ferguson. And we know what Ferguson represents. Y'all know what this movement, what this block, what this street, what happened here. This street belongs to the people for how many days straight? So my thing is tonight we need nothing but unity. Nothing but unity. Love took over these streets because they tried to kill us with hate. Just let the bus go. Just let it go. August 9, 2014. That same energy that brought us all to the streets in the first place, and the reason that we have not stopped fighting ever since. So in this 4.5 minutes, I want you to reflect on why you're here currently. If you're new, what happened to bring you out now? If you've been out here, what's kept you out here? Right? Because this is love. So we're going to start it now.
Protesters doing a 4.5 minutes of silence for the 4.5 hours Mike Brown's body laid on the street dead on Canfield Road here in Ferguson, Missouri, back in 2014. Protesters seem to be letting the buses through. people letting this lady through. Hey. How are you?
We still on this 4.5 minutes.
We letting people through now, y'all?
So again, 4.5 minutes of silence right now in honor of Mike Brown on the road for 4.5 hours dead. That's why protesters are back here in Ferguson, Missouri. We got a stream vortex going on right now. Ferguson, Bassam Masri, he was live streaming in Ferguson. Miss Jupiter, live streaming in Ferguson. And I was also live streaming in Ferguson.
Day one, all three of us, you know.
Ferguson stream team.
Yep, we are the Ferguson stream team. A lot of members.
Dirk Brown also out here. He was a live streamer that started in Ferguson, like Bassam. Heather and I were also already streaming before Ferguson, but really went hard during those 6 months after Mike Brown died here. So again, for new viewers, for people new to the Stockley protest, from the TYT audience, Jason Stockley murdered Anthony Lamar Smith about 5 years ago now. He got off. The judge basically, there was no proof that the gun that was most likely planted was Anthony Lamar Smith's. The judge decreed that because he was a heroin dealer, again on circumstantial evidence, because he was a heroin dealer, of course he had a gun, so of course it was his, and that's why he found Jason Stockley not guilty, which re-sparked the frustration here in St. Louis, most of which has not changed since Ferguson. And so that's why tonight protesters decided to bring it back to ground zero, as they're calling it, Ferguson. We were first on West Florissant Road, where the protest first broke out by the Canfield Apartments, where Mike Brown was shot. And then we moved locations tonight in front of the Ferguson Police Department, that was the second location of the main protest after the first 2 months. Protesters were pretty much out there, and we were out there streaming just about every night for many months. And so that's why we're here back in Ferguson, Missouri. Also, if you've noticed the pattern over the last 2 weeks since the kettling, a lot of these protests have been organized in different spots, different lengths of time. Some people didn't even show up at on purpose to keep the cops guessing, to keep the politicians guessing on how they're going to handle these protests, because the protesters don't want to go anywhere anytime soon until real changes happen.
2 minutes left, 2 minutes left.
One of the main focuses of the protests right now, coming from the organizers, is economic shutdowns. And so far they've cost the city millions and millions, and the county millions and millions on officer overtime, lost economic benefits from shutting down things like the Galleria Mall and the Schnucks the other day. And so it's having an effect, and police are feeling it too, having to be out here every night, and that's part of the purpose. That's to get them to think about what they're doing, to get them to, the so-called good cops everyone talks about, to get them to speak up finally. And while they're doing this moment of silence here, just a reminder that I am live on all 4 of the channels you see right here: YouTube, Facebook, Ustream, and Periscope. Also live on RebZ.tv. You can see my donation link right there. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at RevolutionaryZ to get minute-by-minute updates of where and when we could be live. Also, the new stories pumping out of RebZ.tv. We've got a new writer. We're getting some great undercover investigation going on against 0311 Tactical Solutions, which Sergeant Rossomano and Deba of the SLMPD are co-founders of a private company that gets paid taxpayer dollars then to train SLMPD and other departments how to brutalize people, like you've seen here in St. Louis. So most of the brutalization you've seen is basically a PR stunt to highlight what Tactical Solutions can do for you and other police departments, and it's pretty disturbing when you think of it like that. And we are also live tonight on TYT Politics as well, keeping the torch going for Jordan while he's out of town. That way the TYT Politics audience can keep abreast of what's going on. I'm happy to do that for you, Jordan. You definitely earned my Definitely earned my trust and respect while he was here, Jordan and Ty.
Shut it down! If we don't get it, 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 fist up, fight back! Okay, let's go with that one. I'm gonna let you answer. Yeah, go on. Fist up! Fight back! 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 Fight back! Fight back! Fist up! Fight back! Fist up! Fight back! We shut shit down! We shut shit down! We shut shit down! We shut shit down! Our streets! 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 Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! Mic check! Hey, Reb.
Have a question. I think we have somebody out here that's on the Ferguson City Council. Is that correct? Yes. Are you on the Ferguson City Council, ma'am? Linda? Lipka.
Yes, ma'am, I am.
All right, awesome. Somebody from Ferguson City Council. One of our elected officials. So what we want to do, we just want to hear your declaration while all of these wonderful people are out here, while the live stream is going, while we have media out here. We just want to hear you shout that Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Yell it out, Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter. Black Lives Matter.
Here you go. She has a bullhorn.
What's she gonna say?
If all lives matter, then why do Black lives
She said all lives matter now.
If all lives matter, why do Black lives obviously not matter in this country? If all lives matter, then why do Black lives not matter? Why are they getting killed by the cops that all lives matter? That is a stupid ass concept for racist.
How is that statement true until Black Lives Matter?
Why did you vote so
How is that statement true until Black Lives Matter?
vote against the women's shelter?
I voted
Because she a racist?
No,
What?
not at all. Because I'm
Not at all.
about the financial aspects of it, and until we know that there's actually money there,
She's a racist. Women resources to support women and children.
After all the traffic
You can cooperate with the effort by becoming a signatory on any grants that they decline to file. You cannot offer any support.
She votes against Black people. 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 When Black lives are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back! When Black lives are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back! When Black lives are under attack, what do we do? Stand up, fight back!
Mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check, mic check.
Did she vote against the park for the kids? She voted against the park for the kids and went on Confronting. She voted against the park for the black kids. Bitch! My check! My check! My check! My check! My check! You voted against the park.
My check! My check! My check!
So I just want to fill you guys in. I had to get away from that to fill you guys in on what's going on here. The lady, the white lady they're speaking to, is apparently a Ferguson City Council member. She also knew who I was. She yelled out, "Hey, Reb," before people went to talk to her. So, I mean, it's not just police. City officials have been watching my stream for the last 2 weeks, so they know what's going on here. So basically, the crowd wanted her to say Black Lives Matter. She did. But then the lady standing next to her said, well, all lives matter. And so the city council member said, all lives matter. And what you guys got to understand about that, when protesters and people say Black Lives Matter, they are not implying that white lives or other lives don't matter. What they are saying and implying is that right now in America, Black lives do not matter as much as white lives. And that is very much the case, especially in urban cities. So when they say Black Lives Matter, they are saying Black lives do not matter as much as white lives right now. When somebody counters that, like the city councilwoman just did with all lives matter, what they are saying is, actually, I don't agree with you. I think all lives already do matter, and all lives equally matter. And that you're basically countering what the protesters are saying, so you're disagreeing with them. And that's why the crowd got so angry. Where people are not trying to say Black lives only matter. When they say Black Lives Matter, it's saying, why do not Black Lives Matter as much as the rest? Why are we not equal like our founding fathers promised yet? That is what Black Lives Matter means. So when people oppose it with all lives matter, they're doing that to shut down that conversation. And they try to play on the sympathies, like, no, I care about everybody. If you did care about everybody, then you would have the courage to say Black Lives Matter. Meaning, right now, in America, 2017, they do not matter as much, and that's why people say that. So I just had to pull away from that so you guys could understand why the crowd got so inflamed by that. And clearly, Ferguson council lady, to the best of her efforts, was trying. Very nice and polite, but that when you say things like that, it doesn't matter how your demeanor is. If she has watched my live streams, she should know by now what Black Lives Matter means. The trolls at home who comment at us relentlessly should know by now, but they continue because they watch Alex Jones and all these right-wing conspiracy websites and YouTube saying what they think it means, when that's not what people here saying it means. So if you want to know what Black Lives Matter actually means, listen to me and listen to the people who have been here, not to these conspiracy sites on YouTube who think this is a black nationalist movement trying to take over the world and kill all whites, because that is not happening. It's to try to get Black lives to the same equal stance as white lives, finally, hundreds of years later.
Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets! Our streets!
So protesters now leaving Marley's bar again. Marley's bar was a hotbed of where the racist white people hung out during Ferguson protests in 2014. A lot of encounters there. Tonight was very peaceful, trying to have a conversation. At least the councilwoman was standing out there, acknowledged the crowd, and she did want to say Black Lives Matter, sadly. She had to follow it up with All Lives Matter, which then basically extinguishes the first statement.
No profit! All right. No justice. No profits. No justice. No profits. No justice. No profits. Then no justice. No profits. Then no justice. No profits. I'm not even using the mic and I'm louder than y'all, man. Come on. No justice. No profits. Then no justice. No profits. Then no justice. No profits. Then no justice. No profits. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. It ain't no game. It ain't no 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 joke. Whose street? Our streets. 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 If we don't get it, shut it down. 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 I said if we don't get it, shut it down. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. It ain't no game. It ain't no 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 joke. Let me hear y'all do this. This was one of my things. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love and support each other. We must love and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chain. We have nothing to lose but our chain. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love and support each other. We must love and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chain. We have nothing to lose but our chain. One more time, and I want to hear y'all as loud as you fucking can. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. It is our duty to win. We must love and support each other. We must love and support each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. 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 That's what the fuck I'm talking about. Who do you protect? Who do you serve? 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 They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. They think it's a game. They think it's a joke. It ain't no game. It ain't no 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 joke. Police silence is violent. 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 Indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail.
So again, we've got Sergeant Harry Dilworth on the scene once again.
Send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Indict, convict,
ready? Are we ready? Drummer! Brown. When I say Mike, y'all say Brown. Mike. Brown. Mike. Brown. Y'all say Mike, y'all say Brown. Mike. 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 Brown.
I just got a question. Everybody's screaming Blue Lives Matter, but he got a white shirt on. Does that mean his life don't matter?
You work for me. I work for you. You all work for me.
Police protect buildings, not civilians. I gotta know that.
With y'all traffic tickets, y'all fine. But then, a woman shelter.
They protect buildings, not civilians.
Out of all them tickets y'all wrote.
We have to deal with protest. So we're gonna give y'all a hell of a run for y'all money tonight. Cause y'all ain't full of shit. Hey, check this out, brother. You been up here tucking your pants like you got something you want to get on. I'm right here. We can talk about it. Right here.
I know this man, bro.
You know this man? What you know about this man? Oh, this? He's not about shit. Not about shit. About shit. Not about shit. Not about shit.
I know this man.
Hey, I remember when you was a blue shirt, now you're a white shirt, now you think you're better than everybody.
Talking about our friend Harry Dilworth, promoted after his horrible treatment to people during the Ferguson protests.
That white shirt ain't gonna make you no better. Your payment ain't gonna go no higher.
I think you think that America's gonna be great again, huh? Are you
And majority of your fellow comrades are white officers, so y'all heard of these 5 black officers still ain't gonna make up for all the white officers. Y'all still got up in the streets. None of y'all shit has changed. When y'all gonna change this shit?
No, for traffic, y'all pull up for nothing.
Y'all pull motherfuckers for having their music up loud. That's fucked up.
Y'all pull over for motherfucking skin color.
Y'all the community.
You ain't had the wrong skin color.
Supporting somebody else, but the right reason.
Just because they skin is bad.
When it's a murder committed out here, y'all don't make y'all issue to go find out what happened to that murder, but you'll come out here and try to free all.
Keep your hands to yourself. Bald head ass nigga.
That's what's wrong with y'all, man. But y'all keep saying we're being disruptive. We supposed to.
Y'all got a heroin epidemic in Ferguson. Y'all got a heroin epidemic. What y'all doing about that? What y'all doing about that? What you doing about the heroin epidemic in Ferguson? Not a damn thing.
That's what y'all need.
Not a damn thing.
Y'all need to take this whole precinct and move that motherfucker all the way out there in the country some motherfucking word.
All the heroin comes through Ferguson.
Shut it down, goddamn.
All the heroin comes right through here.
Hey, we got this whole precinct built, and we gonna be the ones to get this whole precinct moved the fuck from out of Ferguson.
Y'all ain't gonna be around too much longer.
How you like that?
We make shit shake.
Hey, why you got your little camera on, but you don't have that camera on when you pull somebody up or when you shoot somebody? You don't have it on then, but you got it on now because you see a bunch of protesters. Y'all is weak as fuck.
Y'all some bitch.
Real talk. Y'all turn your cameras on when innocent people are all armed, are not doing nothing but standing up for what they believe in, but yet still, so somebody.
I see they put a leash on his ass. They put a leash on you.
They touch me, they gonna die about it.
They got you leashed
Hey,
up.
can you explain why y'all can shoot y'all own kind?
I can't get a yes or no.
Hey, you showing that gun like you got it out of a cow ass. Can you explain to me why y'all be killing y'all own kind?
Hey,
I ain't just talking.
they put a leash on you, homie? They put a leash on you?
How many people you killed with your gun? Sir, I'm talking to you.
We got nothing to break but our chains.
Hey, right here. Kumbaya man.
Y'all ain't give us no choice.
Yeah, you. How many people have you killed? Don't lie. All you have to do is look your name up. You can pop right on up. We can find out all about you. But don't make it hard on you.
Y'all go get y'all tanks and y'all tear gas. Go get y'all.
All that shit over with. You can't get the National Guard to come here and ask you
all of us.
You can't get the National Guard to shoot your gas no more. You can't get the National Guard to come up with them tanks no more. You got to deal with this problem on your own because you created it on your own. Don't look down. Look up. You looked up when you started fucking up other people.
Yeah, look at us like men.
Indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell. Indict, convict, send those killer cops to jail. The whole damn system is guilty as hell.
guilty as hell.
Unite and make sense of
Y'all starting to get a little quiet. Y'all starting to y'all trying to turn up a little bit? Oh damn, y'all trying to turn up a little bit? Yeah! All right. We ready. We ready for y'all. We ready. Say what? Say what? We ready. Say what? Say what? We ready for y'all. Let's go. We ready. Say what? Say what? We ready. Say what? Say what? We ready for y'all. We ready. Say what? Say what? We ready. Say what? Say what? We ready for y'all. One more time for them in the back. Hey, y'all in the back, I can't hear you. Say what? Say what?
Stay on the side. It's more than welcome to stay on the side. Not the parking lot.
What?
Stay back on the side.
Say what? Say what? Say what? Say what? Say what? Say what?
We said if we step back just a little bit, they won't go to me. I'm standing with the gang. We ready. All right, y'all, step back a little bit. Bruce won't try to at least get on the sound. Hey, y'all
Push back a little bit, y'all. Push back a little bit, y'all. Push back.
Get scared now.
Come on, y'all. Push back a little bit. Push back a little bit. Push back.
We ain't gonna do shit without no resistance.
Push back.
Resist.
Push back.
Keep your hands to yourself.
We got you. We straight.
Are we straight, y'all?
We don't need you to tell us what to do, sir. We got our kind. You deal with yours, we deal with ours.
So you don't know
So when we deal with our people,
won't kill the cops right there.
when we deal with our people, lives are saved. When y'all deal with our people, we go to funerals every week.
Lives are lost.
Too many lives are being lost by y'all. We can't listen to y'all no more. I never did in the first place. Why should we listen to y'all? Y'all make every justification for the shit that y'all be doing wrong, but we always doing wrong.
They fear for their life.
Y'all fear for y'all life. What? Y'all fear for y'all life. You thought he had more to feel for white people than you smell marijuana in this car.
Anything, any old excuse.
Y'all come with any excuse. Even if
goddamn
you have a right to carry a gun, you're still losing your life. It doesn't matter. When it comes to the black folks, we just don't get a win with y'all when it comes to those guns. So put them down. Y'all be telling us to put ours down. Shit, y'all can put y'all down. Y'all the biggest gang out here. Y'all kill every time and get away with it. Cold-blooded.
And we come pay y'all to do it.
On video. And y'all get paid when y'all kill somebody for pay.
Kill a cop.
And y'all already had the money raised for y'all when y'all already got them to get the cost. How the fuck y'all
been
come up with all
killing
this
for
money?
30 years.
Who be giving y'all all that money?
30-year killer.
Who bought this right
John
here?
Wilson got out. John Wilson had Bill Wasteland, Walmart, Sam's.
Who bought this
All
building?
of y'all in conjunction with each other.
Can you answer that? Who bought this
When their
building?
sons come up there.
We did. We did.
So we have a right to be on this lot.
You haven't spent damn fucking dime on nothing that's built on this damn ground.
Y'all don't even live around here. Y'all don't pay no taxes
We've
around
done
here.
it. The community have done it. You have done nothing but sit there
you
looking
live
like
around here?
Barney.
Where do you live? Do you live in Ferguson?
No.
Do you live in Ferguson?
No.
Does he live in Ferguson?
No. Now one of these police officers live out here.
You don't have to drive to get
You live
here.
in Clayton.
Keep putting them out here in our community to patrol our community. None of them live in Ferguson.
That's the main
That
killer
makes
right
no
there.
sense.
That's the main killer right
That
there.
makes no sense.
He got the most.
Do you all like people being in y'all community that you all don't know?
He only 25 minutes away.
Why do keep doing it?
Beat the shit out of them. It ain't nothing. About an hour.
Slave days are over with. Only slaves I see out here is them.
I mean, does that
not ring a
They're
bell?
the slaves, because as soon as he sees something, they got him moved.
Does that not?
No, none of that.
Hit home anywhere?
Accordingly.
Y'all don't know the people here. Y'all can't police the people here.
Respect them on the ass when they fuck up. You should have respected them on the ass a long time ago. All of them. None of them are good officers. None of them. You can see the racism on some of them faces. You can see the beads of sweat rolling down their faces. Look how red these people, man.
That motherfucker right there so red. It's a damn shame.
Racist people are not watching.
Boy, that motherfucker right there is fire engine red. He mad as hell. He want to kill a nigga. I don't know his goddamn name, but he ain't shit.
Look at the Victor Holder. He don't know what to do right now.
Make America great again, motherfucker. That's a KKK. Right there.
KKK, dumbass.
Yeah, that's a KKK. Look how red he is. That motherfucker won't even look at us.
You support Donald Trump. Do you support Donald Trump? Because you know Donald Trump don't support anyone. If Donald Trump can attack the NFL,
He'll come throw some paper towels at you.
if Donald Trump can attack the NFL for a person standing up for their amendment rights because they don't believe in no fucked up ass constitution that they have, why is it the problem here?
I don't got no babies, but I'm
all Trump gonna do is come throw you some paper towels like he did in Puerto Rico. Tell you have a nice day.
Our streets! Our streets!
Look at him. He's
our streets! Our streets!
Look at the camera. Look at the camera. You just got out the tanning bed.
Our streets!
You just got out the tanning bed.
Our streets!
You go tanning before you
Our
get
streets!
We shut it down.
Y'all real comfortable. We shut it down. Whole motherfucking atmosphere. Y'all need this, man. Y'all need this. Y'all think that shit happens like that. Y'all think that shit. Y'all ain't shooting this shit. You gonna keep me around every fucking time.
It's hot here.
Just like y'all be trying to remind us of the laws we break. We gonna remind us of the laws. Y'all heard y'all said it was willing to kill a black man. What y'all doing? But y'all ain't doing shit about them. So you call your unit about that. You call your unit about that. Y'all the biggest gang out here, but y'all mad at us.
Hustling people, hustling businesses.
Y'all got the biggest hustle there is. Traffic.
Yeah.
They talk about people traffic. Y'all traffic people for goddamn me money.
It was all
y'all ain't no better than
justice
that.
report.
Corrupt is no on top of corruptness. When y'all gonna
justice, put it in clear paper.
When y'all gonna stop this shit, man?
You know? This is a racist police department.
None of this shit y'all do is legal. But y'all stand all mind take this motherfucker like this motherfucker.
What changed in the last couple of years? Nothing.
Nothing. This motherfucker started, man. Just like y'all.
Again, new viewers are here in front of the Ferguson Police Department. Ferguson, Missouri, just a few minutes outside of St. Louis in the county, in one of the 90-plus municipalities of St. Louis County, which is a separate entity from city completely. Very confusing area. That's why the racist history and all the laws and problems here are hard for people outside of St. Louis to understand. All the different white flights in and out of the city. The different municipalities that are county and the city has no jurisdiction in county and vice versa, leading to a lot of these issues that sparked Ferguson, like people getting multiple traffic tickets just driving through the north side of St. Louis for a broken headlight. And then they can't pay 3 tickets, so you get a warrant out. Once you get a warrant out in St. Louis or the county, you get paid to get out. That's why Ferguson jail used to be packed. And they would have to take them to St. Anne. It was packed because they would fill it with people with parking violations. I have heard it's changed a little on the surface, a few percentage points, but they're still doing basically cash bond for parking tickets until they can get bailed out. I'll tell you what St. Louis can use is what, like one of the groups like they're doing in Chicago, like the bond funds, where they're literally, like in Chicago, they're bailing out people who are under that same situation, that are basically in jail because they can't pay the poor tax to get out of jail and then properly fight it, keep their job because they got some minor violation.
Who shuts it down? We shut it down. 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 And we don't get it. Shut it down. And we don't get it. Shut it down. All right, my voice is tired now. Go ahead.
Next up, before we start marching down City Station Road, out there in Tennessee, Missouri. Let's get a hell yeah out there.
So here in St. Louis, Missouri, night 22 of the Jason Stockley protest. Jason Stockley, the white St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department officer who shot and killed Anthony Lamar Smith about 5 years ago. With circumstantial evidence assuming he was a heroin dealer, led to a high-speed chase because if you're black in the city and a cop car tries to pin you off, whether you're doing something or not, you fear for your life, and reasonably he decided to flee. In the chase, you hear Officer Stockley on tape saying he's going to kill that motherfucker, which he in fact did, even though his partner holstered his weapon on scene, pretty much showing that he was not a threat. On-star evidence that was not admissible in court, audio shows Anthony Lamar Smith pleading for his life in his final moments. And that's what sparked, the acquittal of that officer is what sparked the not guilty. It's what sparked this new wave of protests here in St. Louis. The protests have been going on throughout the country since Mike Brown was shot, and now they found their home back here in St. Louis for the last 22 nights, and then on night 22 back in Ferguson, to let the municipalities, county, and Ferguson know that protesters have not forgotten.
What are we, 3 weeks in? I don't know. I've lost count. 3 weeks today. 3 weeks today. 3 weeks today you've been out here. 3 weeks today you've been sacrificing. 3 weeks today you've given your money, your talent, your skills, your heart. You put other things to the back to take care of other people that you may not even ever meet. So there is a big, great thank you. A big, great thank you for somebody who didn't die because you stood. A big, great thank you that none of us were hit by a car because you held the line, you held the intersection. Some of us didn't have money the other day, but you brought out pizza. And water, and Gatorade, and batteries, and ice. And. Jail support. Every attorney, every person that's donated. We just need to take a minute and say thank you. And we gotta say it because I know some people are getting weary. I know you're getting weary. It's okay to get weary. It's okay to get tired. But we got to push through it. Because our feelings don't dictate anything. Our feelings can't dictate anything. We got to push through that. And that's what you've done tonight. So a big, great thank you. A big, great thank you from all of us. And remember this. You are the movement. It's not us. It's not a few. You are the movement. If your feet are out here, you are the movement. If you know somebody that can't make the ground, but they push a pin where they are, they sign a check, whatever they do in their place. If they're praying or beating a drum, whatever they're doing, you are the movement. Now,
y'all want to burn this flag or what?
We want to make sure it's clear and that it's recorded while we're standing in front of the City of Ferguson Police Department and Municipal Court. We're standing here. We brought it all the way back to ground zero. We can't do this thing without remembering where we started from. Yes, we didn't try to start from this place. We didn't try to start at all. Darren Wilson made us start. Chief Jackson made us start. So we came back to make sure that they know that just because we've been in the city don't mean that we forgot about you. You will respect black lives. You will acknowledge that black lives matter. You can walk away if you want to, but we'll just keep coming. You know who we are. We'll keep coming back, and we'll make you lose money, waste money. We'll keep coming back.
Keep coming.
Right. So acknowledge that black lives matter. But I will say this. You haven't killed anybody lately, so I guess. What you call lately? So tonight, in front of Ferguson Police Department, y'all, let's remind them who we are. Let's turn up. Let's turn up. Let's turn up.
We're going down to the station road. Come on, Jay.
Who shut shit down? We shut shit down. 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 Our streets. Our streets. Our streets. Our streets. United we stand. Divided we fall. 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 We fed up. Can't take it no more. We fed up. Can't take it no more. Can't take it no more. We fed up. Can't take it no more. 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 Whole streets. Our streets. Whole streets. Our streets. Whole streets. Our streets. Our streets. We shut shit down. We shut shit down. We shut shit down. We shut shit down.
My tripod.
What do you want? Justice. I don't think you almost want justice. You better tell them what you want, because they ain't going to hear your voice matter. What do you want? Justice. When do you want it? Now. What do you want? Justice. When do you want it? Now. What do you want? Justice. When do you want it? Now. When do you want it? Now. And when do you want it? Now. What do you want? Justice. And when do you want it? Now. What do you want? Justice. And when do you want it? Now. What do you want? Justice. And when do you want it? Now. What do you want? Justice. And when do you want it? Now. 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 Motherfucking idea I guess that we gonna take this shit out. Y'all know what it is. Okay. Y'all move a little closer. Yeah, I want them to hear us. Y'all move a little closer. Y'all move a little closer. If you ain't scared, I mean, I ain't scared. Fuck with me. I know how I feel. Ain't no fucking comment. So they can hear us loud and clear, because they always sit in the cut like it's a game, like it's a motherfucking joke. You pig in the blanket, burn like bacon, smelling motherfucking joke.
So police moved back from the parking lot over here.
You might get all the overtime, but your motherfucking ass gonna be tired as hell when you go home to your wife and kids. You can't do shit. That's what we gonna
What they did not do here tonight is they did not pull out county and riot gear. And you notice how things stayed peaceful. You notice how even when the crowd was angry at certain times, it stayed non-violent. I shouldn't use that word peaceful because honestly, you guys have so many interpretations of what the word peaceful means, it doesn't even matter anymore. It was non-violent. Had riot cops come in, you see what happens when riot cops come in. They cause riots every single time. They inflame the crowd. They put their hands on people, they spray people, they arrest people, and then a water bottle gets thrown because someone's angry, and then they attack everyone. For the trolls that don't agree with me, watch my thousands of hours of live streams to prove it. Otherwise, I'll just delete your comments, but thank you anyway.
I want y'all motherfuckers to know that. Don't think all Negroes with tattoos and are black or ignorant. We just teed up as you motherfuckers, but we got a different way of expressing ourselves. And that's through this bullshit ass system with all these fucking phone calls to eternal furs and all this other extra shit. Now fuck that, we gonna shut it down where the sun don't shine at. All you motherfuckers, let our people go. You hear me? Who streets? Our streets! Who streets? Our streets! Who streets? Our streets! Who streets? Our streets! You say peaceful, you say protest, peaceful. Protest! Peaceful! Protest! You say peaceful, you say protest, peaceful. Protest! Peaceful! Protest! See, it was peaceful for a minute, you heard me? But then we turn up on them motherfucking ass. Who shut shit down? We shut shit down! 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 They ain't give us our shit! We don't shut the shit down! They ain't give us our shit! We don't shut the shit down! They ain't give us our shit! We don't shut the shit down! They ain't give us our shit! We don't shut the shit down! Who shut shit down? We shut 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 shit down! Give yourself a pat on the back because y'all are wonderful people. Y'all are wonderful people. Y'all are amazing. Stand here, fight for us? Hell yeah, you tight as hell. So, you know what we gonna do next is shut this motherfucker down. Anybody feeling like turning up right now? Yeah. Yeah. Anybody feeling like turning up right now? Yeah. Anybody feel like tearing up right now? Yeah. Let's see up on that motherfucker now. Turn up, don't turn down. We do this for my friends. Turn up, don't turn down. We do this for my friends. Turn up, don't turn down. We do this for my friends. Turn up, don't turn down. We do this for my friends. Turn up, don't turn down. We do this for my friends. Yeah, man, we do it. Pigs in a blanket.
Fried like bacon.
Pigs in a blanket. Fried like bacon. Pigs in a blanket.
Excuse me, who do you work for?
RebZ.tv.
You work for police.
What?
Pigs in a blanket. Pigs in a blanket.
motherfucking bullshit. So whatever we said or whatever we said ain't gonna amount to none of the motherfucking people that killed us.
Sure right, brother.
Am I wrong? Am I right or am I wrong?
Right.
Am I right or am I wrong?
Right.
Am I right or am I wrong?
Right.
FTP.
Fuck the police.
FTP.
Fuck the police.
FTP.
Fuck the police.
FTP.
Fuck the police.
Fuck the what?
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 Fuck the police.
Police protect buildings, not civilians. 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 Police protect buildings, not civilians.
What's that? We got a bus coming through.
Okay, guys, new viewers, welcome to Ferguson, Missouri, just outside of St. Louis in the county, North County, site where Mike Brown was shot back in 2014 on Canfield in West Florissant. Protesters first arrived on West Florissant tonight at the Urban League, marched to right past Canfield where Mike Brown was shot, marched to the Ferguson Market and Liquor, which is the store where allegedly Mike Brown stole cigarillos. The truth of the story is he did not. There was much illegal activity going on with the workers that the owner didn't know about, and they had something arranged with Mike Brown. The owner thought he was stealing, called the cops. Darren Wilson then hunted him down and shot him in the street back in 2014, and that's why protesters are back here in Ferguson on night 22. If you're unfamiliar with what's going on in St. Louis, the Stockley verdict happened 3 weeks ago today, where the judge let off Jason Stockley, the killer cop of Anthony Lamar Smith, shot him down, most likely planted a gun. The reason he let him off is the judge basically determined that it had to have been Anthony's gun because he assumed he was a heroin dealer based off circumstantial evidence. So of course he had a gun, and so the judge found Jason Stockley not guilty, even though clear video evidence of he did not need to be shot, and Jason Stockley was out to kill him on audio. So night 22 of St. Louis protests finding its way back here in Ferguson. And if you're new to the channel, I am simulcasting right now on YouTube, Facebook, Ustream, and Periscope. You can also go to RebZ.tv/live, or just RebZ.tv. It's the first post on there. You'll find our live stream on there as well. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at RevolutionaryZ for up-to-the-minute live tweets. Also, we got a new RebZ.tv Twitter we just started up. Check that out as well. And we are also live tonight on TYT Politics Facebook page, holding the torch for Jordan while he's out of town. So we're collaborating, putting our audiences together to try to keep this crucial message going. With all the arrests, more than 300 people arrested in St. Louis in the past 3 weeks, many of them journalists. A lot of illegal activity on the side of the police over the protests. A lot of heavy-handed tactics which stem right from SLMPD's training from 0311 Tactical. 0311 Tactical is co-founded by Sergeant Brian Rossamano and Deba of SLMPD, who then get SLMPD to pay them privately, a private company, to then train SLMPD how to be brutal to people. And then they go around the country and do the same thing. And so they're basically using these protests as a marketing tactic for 0311 Tactical to show other police departments how they can handle protests. Well, they've shown us. They've shown us for sure, and RebZ.tv is digging in right now to 0311 Tactical, and we've already put out a couple articles. There's more to come. The St. Louis Post-Dispatch is also doing the same thing. There's a lot of journalists and a lot of people right now digging up what they can on 0311. They've been scrubbing their websites, but don't worry, boys. We've got it all logged, and it'll all be coming to light, so stay tuned to RebZ.tv over the next few weeks for more breaking articles on 0311 Tactical and their ties to SLMPD and the brutality that we've seen over the last few weeks here in St. Louis.
It ain't even curfew time yet.
7 to 6. Is that it? No, you
Say it from your heart.
Everyone speak from your heart, please.
Say it from your heart. That's how
it is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support each other.
We must love and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support each other.
We must love and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and support each other.
We must love and support each other.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
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 I don't do that.
You get sound.
Okay. Yeah,
You get sound. You got sound. You got sound. You got sound. My hip is bad. I still got the scars. I get glasses soon.
I don't know what this clown wants behind me. Keep fighting.
Hey, Red, what's going on?
You got sound.
Red, are you driving?
When you ride.
Sound.
What's going on with this?
I'm watching. I'll stop.
He tried to mess your chain.
Okay, good. He got distracted. Thank God. That was weird, dude. I didn't know what was going on with that. I know that, but I didn't know. That wasn't the question, you know. What's up, dude?
How you want to watch the video?
It's the app I use. I'm gonna show Bubbles how to do it. Sorry.
Which app is it? I said which app is it?
Do you have an iPhone? You need an iPhone. It only works on iPhone. I know. I'd be happy to teach you if you get it. I don't know.
I will.
No, if you like. No, never know.
Hey, Low T. What up, guys? We got stairs under attack. What we do? Pull up with that strap.
Okay, so it appears protest is possibly over for the evening. Crowd is starting to go off in their different directions right now. Except they're hanging a banner. Nice from billboard over here. Zooming in with my HD. It's facing the other way. I can't read it. Stand up, fight back, Black Lives Matter is what the banner says.
What's up, RebZ.tv? What y'all doing?
Just watching you right now, Bassam. You see the banner they're hanging right there?
Did you see that part where I burned the American flag, went through it on their front door? That was my satisfying moment for the night.
That was your moment?
Yeah, that was my satisfying moment.
All right, folks, so let me give you a recap of what went down tonight. So again, night 22 of the Stockley protests. Tonight we found ourselves in Ferguson, Missouri, back years later after 2014, Mike Brown was shot. Erupted Black Lives Matter protests, hands up protests here in Ferguson, across the country. Protesters protested on West Florissant like you saw where they were tonight. At first, that was the hotbed of September and October 2014 after Mike Brown was shot. And then tonight, after that, they came to the Ferguson PD, which was the secondary location of protests for the remaining 6 months after that, here in Ferguson. And I was live back then for most of it. So that's why on night 22, protesters decided to come back to Ferguson, what they're calling Ground Zero, where this nationwide movement began. Anthony Lamar Smith, his acquittal of the officer Jason Stockley is what sparked this latest round of protests here in St. Louis, bringing the focus back to St. Louis after we've seen it in countless cities throughout the country over the last few years, happening just the same way as it did here. And not much has changed here in Ferguson, some very cosmetic changes on the outside. Percentages of people jailed for tickets are slightly down, this and that, but there's still, you go through these different municipalities and county, you get different tickets, you get warrants out because you can't pay the tickets, and you're in jail for weeks on end until you can get bailed out. And so those things are still happening here in St. Louis. Police are still harassing and shooting black people. Fortunately, a couple nights ago, I was live on the south side where there was a standoff situation with SLMPD. Me and a couple other live streamers were in the area documenting. The cops saw us there. Somehow the gentleman he let out 6 kids that were in the house, and he got out of the house in police custody alive, no injuries, and he was a black man. That's what we want, people. I mean, that's the bare minimum of what people are asking is don't kill us. That's what the protesters, that's what the citizens are saying is don't kill us. They proved the other night, SLMPD proved they can do that. Now, can they do that consistently when there aren't live streams in the area? Well, let's see, but it just shows what cop watching, and that's basically your average citizen with a phone or a live stream. When you see police in the area, go live, record it. You never know what's going to happen. Hopefully they do their jobs and you capture that. If they don't, we've got documentation of it. Or when it's live, they watch our live streams, they know when they're live, they know they're being watched. That can possibly sway it in our favor like it did 2 nights ago when the gentleman got taken into custody without being injured. So that's a recap of tonight, the last couple nights, night 22. Tomorrow, day 23, night 23. I don't know what's planned yet, but if there's anything to cover live, I will be out there. And again, for new viewers, I do simulcast on all the 4 channels you see right here, YouTube, Facebook, Ustream, and Periscope. You can also go to RebZ.tv/live, and you can find live stream and chat right there on that page. Make sure you follow me on Twitter at revolutionary_Z. That's my personal Twitter account, or you can also follow RebZ.tv, the new team Twitter account we just started. And you see my donation link at the bottom of the screen. We don't run ads on this channel. We rely on building this new venture through your help, and the generous help so far is much appreciated. You can now become a monthly contributor on the donation page. $1, $3, $5, $25 a month, whatever you can afford will help RebZ grow. It can help me hire more writers. It can help me get more live streamers around the country with the proper gear in their hands. I've got a live streamer in LA right now. We're just waiting to get an iPhone 6 in her hands so she can stream on our same platform for RebZ.tv. So we're looking to get donations for that. Or if you have an old iPhone 6 to donate, we can send out to LA, get it in her hands, and we'll have a correspondent out in LA on our network. That would be very helpful. And also tonight, I want to thank Jordan Sheraton and the people at TYT Politics for spending a couple days here in St. Louis. I took him around, I introduced him to people, I showed him where to be, and he was there. He interviewed the right people, he did some great interviews, and he was not afraid, him and Ty, to go into the heart of the beast, knowing the possibility of how they would be treated by SLMPD. So he gained mad props from the protest community and from other independent media, including myself. I'm holding the torch for him while he's in town because he does plan on being back, but he had commitments, other very important topics, the Flint water crisis and others that they have to cover right now. But they'll be back, so I'm holding the torch for them, keeping a live stream on the TYT Politics page in a form of collaboration that I don't know has been tried before. So this is very interesting and exciting, especially with something so important going on in St. Louis right now. He did not want to leave a live feed from them not going for his audience to not see what's happening. So I'm glad we could collaborate. Welcome to the RebZ audience, welcome to TYT Politics audience. So hopefully we can keep this going on a national level. So again, shout out to all my viewers, shout out to my mods who spend hours and hours a day, all volunteer in answering comments, monitoring the live feeds, getting rid of the racist and bigoted and comments and the trolls clogging the chat. There's thousands of comments coming into the live chat at any minute, and so to not deal with those makes it completely unreadable. So I want to thank all their hard work and to thank the people who manage the RebZ.tv Facebook page. It's a full-time job, and I've got a great team doing that right now. And don't forget to donate if you can, guys. So from St. Louis, Ferguson, Missouri, this is RebZ signing out. I will see you guys later.
What's your YouTube channel?